Is there a studio that tickles your fancy quite as much as A24 tickles mine?
Yeah, and it's too bad because it's Miramax, and and you can't say that anymore, and it's so.
It's been a hell of a
upsetting.
rebrand.
It's Harvey really screwed it up, right? I understand what he had to do to get Oscars. I understand that some people don't like Shakespeare in Love the way I do. But is there any way, what do you throw out the art because of the artist?
I mean, that's been a debate. It's one that I've been recently debating when it comes to sports. I feel like you're very likely to twist yourself into a pretzel if you start suggesting that you can't do that with certain artists, because it is inevitable that you'll support somebody that has something in their past or something that they're doing right now that would make you a hypocrite. That would be a contradiction.
So we had this conversation when we were talking about the Deshaun Watson situation, and I get that everyone has a line. And what bothers me the most is when my line is not where I want it to be. I don't want to be able to watch Miramax movies and not think of the monster that is Harvey Weinstein, but I also don't want to deprive myself of the pleasure of watching the movies that Miramax made. So therefore, I rationalize with myself, which is exactly how society does not improve or make progress, because there's too many people doing too many things the exact way I am, and it's called the convenience of forgetfulness. And I'm willing to do it.
Which sounds like an upcoming title from an A24 backed franchise. I still watch movies that Harvey executive produced. I mean, you're limiting yourself quite a bit, especially with some of the great films of the 1990s. Pulp Fiction's off the table. Basically anything Quentin Tarantino did, and Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors, and I think that also probably comes with problems, because even though he hasn't really been pressed on it in any of the interviews he's chosen to do, was he an enabler? He certainly had to have seen things. Uma Thurman saw things. Uma Thurman has been in several of Quentin Tarantino's movies, so it's really difficult. But I do think that everybody has to have a line, and you take these by case.
It's hard when you take things case by case, because it's very hard to have precedent. The whole reason why they're like in our legal system, that we have a legal system where precedent matters so much, and when you're evaluating players, you look at past performance and you try to guess what future results will be. And so we all spend our lives doing that. And so therefore we're all going to have different lines, and therefore there's no consistency. And therefore you have these debates where you don't ever have a winner or a loser. You've just got people angry and talking over each other. And I just finished Today's Nothing Personal, Mike. And one of the things that I talked about is what happened in the Padres-Giants game, and the fact that it became about race, and then all of a sudden they changed their mind the next day and realized it was never about race. It was about the unwritten rules of baseball. And there was an apology that took place, et cetera, et cetera. And I was trying to think about why we don't have conversations before the fact versus after the fact. And the reason is that everybody now is so worried about being canceled. They're so sensitive, that they're so concerned. But maybe Elon Musk will take care of all of that.
What do you think of Elon Musk's hostile takeover or
Why
attempting?
is it hostile?
Well, because many people that work for Twitter don't want it to happen. Many
That
people
that doesn't make it hostile.
I've seen it described as a hostile takeover, which is just,
No.
and Twitter is in the situation where, as a publicly traded company, they have to go through this formal offer because they owe it to their shareholders. I read somewhere that many people were given a personal day at Twitter when it was revealed that Elon Musk was a majority stakeholder.
GMAB.
Most of the people on the board don't want Elon Musk around there, but as a publicly traded company, they have a fiduciary duty to take this offer, this $43 billion or thereabouts cash offer that Elon Musk is offering, which was a hell of a deflection from the allegations that he failed to disclose his holdings of the company within the required 10 days. They say he waited 11. Well, on day 11, he offers to buy the company cash. So it was a hell of a diversionary tactic from Elon Musk.
I always wondered, do you count Saturday? Like it's the Sabbath. So maybe there was just a miscalculation because you wouldn't miss it, right? He's got enough advisors around him, enough people helping him that you don't all of a sudden just do it on day 11 saying, oh my God, we missed it. I was watching reruns of Yellowstone.
Look, a person like Elon Musk certainly has enough tax breaks, but I feel like day 11 and day 10, come on, what are we doing? all taxes, it's tax time, and it's got me just furious. The government knows exactly how many taxes I owe, but they leave it up to me and my accountants to figure it out, and I don't know math. And whatever my accountants send to me, I'm going to sign off on. I love the accountants sending me their work to sign off on and check in. That's why I'm sending it to you. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
So you want the government to actually just send you a bill?
Yeah, send me a bill. They already take plenty out of my check already. They know exactly how much I'm supposed to owe.
You actually can control that. You can actually fill out forms when you work for a company. I bet you Metalark has this. Wait, do you guys have a finance department?
Yeah, it's Roy.
Do you have an HR department?
Yeah, we're working on that. Right now I think it's Jess.
So the way it's supposed to
or
work.
I think Hildy she literally puts on an HR hat and she takes it off and she puts on a finance hat. It's one of those green visors that a lot of the people that take the poker chips.
You're all about the content,
yeah.
Right? Let's not worry about back office. Let's not be too top heavy. Let's just make sure we're putting out good content.
We're still growing.
Well, you should always be growing.
Oh, yeah.
You shouldn't use the word still to that. Every company should always be growing because you're either growing or you're contracting. Don't ever stand still would be a word of advice for Metalark.
And that's not business. It's nothing personal.
I wasn't going to say the tagline. It's not necessary. But so you want the government to get so involved on a micro basis that they actually just send a bill when, in fact, when you fill out all your forms, when you become employed, I don't know if Metalark does paychecks every 2 weeks or if they're generated. I picture Le Batard writing out checks and then signing them to all the employees.
That's exactly. Hildy's there with a big receipt maker with the wax paper roll.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Pulls a lever.
I get the pink one.
Yeah, you get the pink one.
Yeah.
And there's a swinging light.
Does Dan have a checkbook and a calculator where he's balancing the checkbook after paying everybody's salaries?
There's a board like in Peaky Blinders where just Roy scratches off paid, unpaid.
It's too good. So there's also this thing called direct deposit, but we can talk about that another time.
Oh, I have that. I recommend it.
Okay, that's a good one. So the fact is, when you fill out your forms, you can write down that you have multiple dependents or no dependents. You can actually have withholding that is very, very low, which will just mean you'll owe taxes at the end of the year. The reason why people try to withhold as much as possible is they don't want a downside surprise come April. So you can actually, those people who get refunds are just those people who are not paying attention. They're actually withholding way too much.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't do that.
Taxes are fascinating. I have an S corp, and being able to write things off is a huge relief. Also, damn, that meme stung craze kind of hurt me in spots, but woo, does it help the capital gains tax?
What's a meme stung?
The meme stunk craze. AMC, GME, Hodl, Diamond Hands, baby.
What is that called? Meme stunk?
Meme stonks.
Stonks?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever used that word before. What does stunk mean?
I can't get into it, but it's just like what apes call it.
Okay.
An ape is some idiot that holds and ends up holding the bag while the establishment calls him an idiot for deciding to spend $250 on GameStop stock.
Okay, so you're paying taxes on all of your gains from GameStop, right? Because they'll catch you.
Gains.
That's your daughter's college tuition, those gains. You got to save that.
No, it's a tax benefit for me right now.
That's called a loss.
That is called a loss. And
it's
you
okay
run in the Marlins.
loss.
You run in the Marlins. You know a thing or two about the benefits of occasional losses.
Yes. And I also know what you can do. You can create losses out of thin air. They're called paper. They're actually called paper losses because they're not actual. It's the greatest thing ever. You get to take deductions.
Let's be gross together, right? Let's have this local hour subpoenaed. That's my goal.
How do you create losses? What does that mean?
Man, Dave, this is personal. Don't say too much.
What do you mean? The statute of limitations is totally run out. I can say whatever I want.
Man, I don't know. Not in the court of public opinion, so be careful.
Wait, do they have subpoena power, the court of public opinion?
Look, you have such a sterling reputation with South Florida fans, and I just don't want you to ruin it.
It's funny you say that because I think as time passes and there's more Nothing Personal episodes out there, I get way more feedback and way more people when we look at, for some reason, CBS, Viacom, or I think it's called Paramount now. I can't remember what it's called, but they can give me a report. They give it to Coca, not to me, of who's listening and from where. And it's been a fascinating journey because in the beginning of Nothing Personal, there were over 80% of the people were from Florida. That's how it started. And now it's below 20. So there's a whole group, which is what happens when a show grows, I guess. But there's a whole group of people who don't associate me the way you do or the way Billy does or the way Chris does, however it works. I was actually thinking Corbin, not Gil, but same thing. And so it's totally changed. So you say that, Mike, but I don't know if that applies anymore.
Good. I'm glad I threw you off the scent of paper losses. We move on.
Well, I'm happy to answer Chris's question because it's something that if Metalark is an employee-owned company and there are people there who have stakes in Metalark, then you ought to be paying attention to what the corporation is doing in terms of its financial reporting, its positions, et cetera. Because eventually, if you're looking, whatever your exit strategy is, if it's a sale, if it's public, you got to start paying attention to that stuff now.
I am. Or I'm paying someone to. Let me give you my top 5 A24 movies.
Ooh.
Can you, off the top of your head, even name A24 films?
Is that Annapurna?
Annapurna?
Is that a different movie company? Is that a movie company at all?
Annapurna.
I may be having that in the back of my mind. You would have to give me, I'd have to Google what the A24 films are.
Annapurna is a record, but I don't know what Annapurna is.
I may have it wrong. I'm terrible with names. Is A24 the Reacher franchise or John Wick? What is A24 known for?
Movies. Weird ones.
Which one? No, but what's its top movie?
Well, let me give you my top 5. I'm glad you asked.
I do. I need it.
You gave me a natural transition, even though I shoehorned it in. Number 5, this movie gave me an anxiety attack, and I will never rewatch it. I enjoyed some of the performances. It's Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems?
Uncut Gems.
So I watched it for a second time about 3 weeks ago.
You are nutty.
So let me tell you why I did, because you told me on a show that that's a movie you can only see once. And so I thought that that's right, but it was the middle of the night one night. So I watched it a second time, and here it goes. It's the same level of anxiety the second time. And you know how it ends, and that's the sign of an anxiety-producing movie.
Yeah, it is. It is hard to watch. I find it very triggering. Number 4.
Number 4.
All these movies are very triggering, by the way. All of them are unpleasant to watch, and that is the calling card of an A24 film. Keep in mind, A24 produced a Best Picture winner in Moonlight, not in my top 5, so apologies, just on the OLI, even though it's a local film, beautifully shot, wonderfully done, but it's really a testament to the films from A24 in their very short run that I really love. Number 4 is a really sick movie, and it's called Midsummer.
You actually told me not to watch that.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it. I care about you.
Like you specifically. Do you think that's good for a movie theater, for a movie company? A24's revenue when
You're not gonna like
the
it.
person who loves it says don't watch one of their movies?
Deeply uncomfortable. It deals with the cult, and it's just, I can't really even put this film into words without ruining it. The performances in this film are incredible. It's directed by the same director that directed my number 2 A24 movie, and we'll get into that. I've spoken
You
to
actually
you about.
told me And I recall this is the only movie you told me that this has happened to you, where it lasted not hours, but days, if not weeks, the impact it had on you.
Midsummer stayed with me, too, a little bit, but not as much as my number 2. But in the meantime, here's my number 3, Ex Machina.
I didn't know that was A20. That's, wow.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Great movie.
That's not anxiety-producing. That's actually thought-provoking.
Yeah. Very thought-provoking, and that one's actually like one of the less weird films, even though it gets plenty weird. The performances in this film, it's beautiful to look at. Oscar Isaac, oh my gosh.
Alicia Vikander. Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, I always
was it Vikander?
Tomato, I guess.
Right.
No, it's probably
Michael
Vikander.
Fassbender's wife. That's the first movie I ever saw.
Are they still together?
Her in.
Michael Fassbender kind of got low-key canceled.
He did?
Yeah, he got canceled. He's not getting big roles anymore.
I did not know that. What did he do?
Nah, there's like an assault history. Chris Whittingham, can you look it up for me? He's like shadow canceled.
Interesting. So is he not with Alicia anymore?
I don't know.
Or is it Alicia? I never know how to pronounce her name, but I love her movies.
Trying to see if you got a shot, David. Let's see. Nope, she's still with him, I think. Yeah. But yeah, shadow canceled. More on that later. But that's my number 3 movie. What are your thoughts on Ex Machina?
No, I told you it was one of my. It's in my top. I think it's in my top 100.
Really?
But I'd have to look at my recent list. Oscar Isaac is in my top 10 actors for sure who I've ever seen perform. He does not have a bad performance ever. And that movie, what I liked most about it is what I took away from it, which is a future where most movies, when it's about the future, you're thinking, that's probably not going to happen. This one, I said, wow, what if that does happen?
You could see it. Especially if Elon Musk takes over Twitter. Number 2 is, in my opinion, the most haunting modern thriller ever made, Hereditary. I hate saying its name out loud. It is so scary.
Won't see it. Won't see it.
It psychologically, it stays with you. The way that The Exorcist and Jaws stayed with generations. Jaws... If someone watches Jaws today, they may not know how suspenseful it is, but then they start swimming by themselves in open water and they start hearing the score. So just like Psycho changed the way that you approach taking a shower, no matter what time you took it, whatever era you watch that film in.
If we did a top 5, and this would be an interesting one, top 5 movies, and we're gonna finish your top 5, but the top 5 movies that changed the way that people acted in real life.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. So for me, like. Change behavior, like Sideways. No one drank Merlot after that.
I had a terrible Merlot yesterday.
That would why you shouldn't. I will not drink Merlot. That's a top 5.
There is a great Merlot, Duckhorn Merlot. It tastes just like a cab. It doesn't taste like a Merlot. I bought a Duckhorn Merlot from Publix, thinking I got the right Merlot. I did not get the right Merlot, and it was sideways. It went sideways.
You can't do it.
Don't.
So Jaws is in that for sure.
Yeah.
It changed everything. The Psycho for sure. But I didn't know that. Anyway, that's a great top 5 list. We should think about that.
A quick update from Chris Whittingham.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender was accused on a couple of occasions of domestic violence against his ex-wife, Sonowin Andrews, and did not show up to the 2018 Golden Globes to not, I guess, face reprisal for this.
Shadow canceled.
Is it only shadow cancel when you beat up your wife now? Like we've moved on. Like that's sort of lower now on the like Casey Affleck. Is he shadow canceled?
He might be shadow canceled again because him having success brought past behavior back into light. This happens with Jared Leto occasionally. If Jared Leto made good films, he would survive it. But like bad films come out and everyone comes out with a think piece. It's time to talk about Jared Leto again.
That's would be a fascinating poll question if Dan were here. Does the quality of the product, is it inversely correlated to the amount of the cancel?
I think so to a degree.
That's terrible.
That's life.
That is life.
Yeah.
That's life, baby.
Yeah.
All right, number 1.
Number 1 is The Lighthouse.
That's an A24 movie?
Of course it is. I'd be stunned if it wasn't, especially considering how this top 5 list has gone. The filmmaker, Robert Eggers, he is coming out with a film called The Northman. It's being advertised kind of weird. It's being advertised as this like action epic when, if I know Robert Eggers, it's probably not going to be that way.
I read an advert for the Northman. I think they might be sponsoring this program, not this specific program, but the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz.
Hell yeah, that's great. Robert Eggers is only 38 years old, and he did The Lighthouse. And I'm certainly gonna. I have a decision to make next week as to which one I see first in theaters: The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent or The Northman. And I'm kind of leaning The Northman because The Lighthouse. It's the greatest holiday movie of all time.
Who's in The Northman?
Well, Willem Dafoe is in it.
So is Willem Dafoe the muse of A24 of Robert Eggers?
Yeah. This is the way that Julia Fox was amused behind Uncut Gems. Yeah. Robert Eggers has already come out and said he wants Willem Dafoe to play Nosferatu, which is interesting because there was a film in the early 2000s called Shadow of the Vampire that actually, keep in mind, I've loved Willem Dafoe for a long time, and The Lighthouse just really unspooled the weirdness of Willem Dafoe. But if you want to see a really weird movie, it's John Malkovich and Willem Dafoe, which is like the Weird Olympics. And it's called Shadow of the Vampire, and it's about the filming of Nosferatu, the original film, the black and white, the first one of the first projections of a vampire on screen. And the movie tells his story about how the actor that was cast to be Nosferatu, played by Willem Dafoe, was in real life a vampire. And during the filming, starts killing all these people that are associated with the production. It's actually a really cool concept. But now, Robert Eggers, who did The Northman and The Lighthouse, wants to cast Willem Dafoe as Nosferatu, even though he kind of already played him once in another movie. What did you make about that?
I had The Lighthouse as a love story, by the way. Did you?
Who? Between who?
Robert
Pattinson and Willem
Dafoe.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So it's the greatest love. It's the greatest love story.
Sex, right? Doesn't have
there's
to have
plenty
sex
of
to be
sex.
a love story.
There's plenty of sex in it. There is. Plenty of
Okay.
masturbation and farting and mermaids. And,
Wait a minute. Farting is sex?
well,
My God, I am Ron frickin' Jeremy, baby.
whatever tickles your fancy. Some people are really into that.
Can burping be sex then?
I mean, you'd be amazed what you could search on certain providers. Bet you there is.
I don't ever do premium, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Hell no. So The Lighthouse is my number one, which is really all of this was an on-ramp to talk about The Northman and how excited I am with that. It's got Nicole Kidman. It's got Alexander Skarsgård. Say that 10 times fast. Willem Dafoe and Bjork making her return to film. I guess it's a project close to her heart, given that she's got Icelandic blood. They're teasing that it's actually the start of a franchise, which I'm behind any Robert Eggers film at this point, considering my passion for the greatest sex, romance, and holiday movie ever made, The Lighthouse.
Do you think Bjork can ever be known for anything other than the dove dress or the swan dress?
Yeah, I think Bjork.
Like no matter what she does going forward, won't it always go back to that?
When I think of Bjork, I do think of her in that swan dress. But
I think that there's nothing she can do now.
She looks to be wearing something very elaborate from the trailers here. Bjork really doesn't get enough credit for pushing the boundaries of visual art and tapping in the visual elements to music and tying them together. I think in terms of really pushing boundaries, she's one of the most influential artists ever in that regard.
Do people still make videos?
Yeah, people still do. I don't think Gondry. I'd be surprised if Michel Gondry is still at it, but let me see.
But it's not a thing anymore, right? Remember when MTV really was MTV or VH1 and people would spend money, they'd hire like John Landis directing Thriller. I mean, videos were a real thing where artists would have a chance to act and to visually represent their songs. And I feel like Bjork is someone who was right in the heart of that, took full advantage of that medium. And maybe I've just stopped listening to current music, but I wondered, do artists still do that today where they become more known for sort of their videos versus their songs?
Well, the last music video that Michel Gondry, one of the best music video directors ever, produced was in 2019. He also did a beautiful unreleased White Stripes track, City Lights, in 2016. I love that video.
But I mean, I guess, David, what replaced MTV was YouTube. And I don't think a lot of artists are putting the same kind of effort into it. But like you look at popular songs and they'll have 1 billion views on YouTube. So you could, in theory, bring it back because that art form actually might arguably be bigger now than it was then.
So how many people were watching that? Because I was thinking, what's the name of that crazy song? The guy who got 1 million. He does that dance. He's Asian and he has a
Gangnam
song.
Style.
Gangnam Style. Isn't that the one that got the multiple billions of views around the world? And maybe you're right. That's a way bigger audience than MTV.
Man,
So there is still MTV. It's just called YouTube.
MTV Paramount Plus should just make music videos available on streaming.
Oh.
Yeah, and have MTV the way that it's supposed to be as a part of Paramount Plus. You work at Viacom, get on that.
Yeah, that is my number one priority right now as I am exiting, is to figure out how to get them to put an MTV Classic channel on their streaming service. Thank you.
I wish I had time to put out my top 5 Michel Gondry music videos. A great visual artist.
Are you excited about the Heat playoffs in a significant way?
Thank you for asking.
Or
me.
the Marlins home opener? Like, as you, I was
Marlins
thinking
home
about,
opener, no.
So are people in Miami? I'm not in Miami right now. Is the focus on the Heat? Is it on the Dolphins? Is it on the Marlins home opener? Or did the opening road trip, running a team, I hated opening on the road because you risk having a bad road trip and having that take some of the luster away from opening day, from your home opener. And the Marlins came off a 1-4 off a 5-game road trip.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about or thinking about now?
Well,
in Miami?
our show's talked a lot about the Marlins as of late. I have watched a lot of baseball, David. You'd be proud of me. It's been a lot of Detroit Tigers baseball. I've watched basically every game of theirs this season. I'm really trying. The sport's unbearable, dude. It's just bad. They got to get rid of this shift, I think. I miss people. You know what I miss? A ground out.
Diving stops.
I miss a ground out. I miss diving stops. I miss small ball. I miss pinch hitting for strategy. I miss hitting for average.
Letting guys go for perfect games.
Yeah. Oh my God, that Clayton Kershaw thing pissed me the hell off.
Take a listen to Nothing Personal today because I let off with it. It made me crazy. How old is can we talk about your family for 1 second?
Yeah.
Without getting too personal. Tell me how old your child is, if you're willing to.
2.5.
So too young. But is there ever a thought, who taught you how to score a baseball game?
I taught myself how to score a baseball game.
Seriously?
Yeah.
How would you teach yourself how to score a baseball game?
Well, my mom is dead, and my dad knew nothing about sports. And I didn't
But it could have been an uncle. It could have been a friend. Like I'm saying, how do you teach yourself
didn't really have
what
an
a
uncle.
4 to 3 is?
The only positive male influence I really had in my life consistently was my grandfather until I moved in with my father at age of 15, and then shout out to him. He did a really good job. But my grandfather also wasn't into sports, so I just picked up sports at a passion on my own. I didn't get it from anybody.
Okay. So did you think about teaching your daughter how to score a baseball game when you take her to baseball games, or she's way too young?
Absolutely not.
Would you ever teach her that?
No. Why? You
Okay.
got an app for it. I mean, I understand.
Wait a
Look,
minute.
I don't mean to
Oh.
dismiss like some of the simple pleasures that go associated with baseball games. I happen to like several of those simple pleasures. Scoring a baseball game was never one of those for me. Watching the baseball game and being into the action and being into the strategy of it was something that I really liked. And I feel like there's far less strategy. Now, people that work in baseball right now may tell me all of what I'm watching is strategy, that this is the next evolution of the game. And I push back and say, look, it's flatly a bad evolution for me. I think this is bad for the game. I think it needs fixing. I think that we need to go back to the way that it was, because that was when it was truly the national pastime. And look, the numbers bear this out. I am right.
Yeah. The reason it's the way it is because of the owners. There were so many owners meetings. Every owners meeting that Bud Selig and Ron Manfred ever had, they always would say the same thing, because they would start, part of the meeting would be them having a general conversation with the larger ownership group, which is when there's 2 or 3 people per team versus just the 30 control people. And they would always ask, when we were talking about rule changes, what game do you want? Do you like baseball? And the overwhelming majority, they could never get 23 of the white men to say, we don't like the product anymore. And changes come when owners want changes to come, and they do not see the issue the way you do. And Rob Manfred spends now 10% of his day trying to convince owners how bad the product is. showing the numbers, but then you've got someone like John Skipper who keeps paying the amount of money that he paid with ESPN, and you keep getting these rights deals, and the owners say, hey, there could be people bored, there could be aging demographics, but it's not impacting the value of our team or the annual operating value of our team, so therefore we're not going to change it, and that's a mistake.
I maybe this goes back to our paper losses conversation from earlier this segment, but good baseball towns, really good baseball towns. After opening day, no one's in the stands. I know not no one, but relative to who was there in opening day, like Detroit is a good baseball town, and the crowd on day 2 from day 1 is a huge drop-off. I know it's cold in Detroit, but and this is everywhere. This is Yankee Stadium's even empty for what it is. I understand they're making money because streamers, but there is a very obvious problem. Everyone's screaming about it. We see Clayton Kershaw not have the opportunity to finish a perfect game. A perfect game is good for business. No,
Very
I know
good.
Managers shouldn't be thinking about what's good for business, I guess, in that moment. He actually is probably overthinking what's good for business because he's warped himself into thinking that because I don't give Clayton Kershaw the opportunity to finish out this perfect game, that's going to really help me come October because those 20 pitches are going to carry over somehow. Let me tell you something. I guarantee Clayton Kershaw is going to go up on the IL at some point this season. And it's going to have nothing to do with what happened last night.
It took 15 minutes of the show today because I was so angry about it. And they got Clayton Kershaw to do what he had to do after the game, which is to publicly admit, hey, blame the lockout. I didn't pick up a ball till January. It was my decision. My slider had no bite, blah, 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 blah. But those decisions are actually made prior to the game. Just FYI, and they don't. So
Stupid.
You sit down with your manager and you talk about, hey, if Kershaw has a no-hitter, what is his pitch count? What can it be? If he's got a perfect game, if we are in a close game, if it's a 6-run lead, do we only have him go 60 pitches? So you're going through those scenarios. So Dave Roberts did not have a big decision to make.
Well, I'm glad that we talked about Clayton Kershaw because outside of my top 5 A24 films that I'm very happy that we got to, and I do want us to build out the top 5 films that changed behavior across the world. I think that's a good one. I actually, on the way in, wrote out what I truly miss about the sport of baseball. And that is...
While driving?
Yeah, I thought about it.
I'm glad you didn't write it.
No, it's all up here in the dome. I started taking ginkgo because I'm washed. AF. Here's what I truly miss about baseball, and I think this is a problem.
I'm going to tell you if it'll ever come back. Go.
No one throws a heavy ball anymore. I need a
I don't know
hurler
what that
of a heavy
means.
ball. Oh, you know it when you
Talking
see
about a
it.
heavy sinker, like a
Kevin
Josh Johnson
Brown.
heavy sinker?
Kevin Brown.
Oh, Dan, OLI on
Okay.
Kevin Brown.
No, early Bartolo Colon.
No, don't give away my top 5.
Early Bartolo.
Jesus, Stugotz, you were loud. All right, hang on one second.
Kevin Millwood.
Before you... Guys, Kevin Millwood was a fly ball pitcher. You can't be a fly ball pitcher and throw a heavy ball. God damn it. You just want to make your own top 5. Here we go. Stop it. Everyone stop talking. Number 5 is Matt Cain.
Matty Cain. Perfect game.
Did he throw too hard to throw a heavy ball? Don't you have to be like kind of a soft tosser to be a...
No, late movement also.
No, it's really mostly sink that makes it heavy.
Yeah, and also less rotations on your ball. You know who was infamous for not having many rotations on their ball? Number 4, Bartolo.
Phil Necro.
God damn it. Do your own list. Number 4 is Bartolo Colon.
Early, though, right?
Very early. 100 pounds before where he ended up.
All right. Number 3, Doug Fister.
That's outrageous. It's the worst list ever.
One of the funny things about this is that Matt Cain absolutely threw a heavy ball that back then was 93 miles an hour, and we're like, holy shit, this guy throws hard. But it's just not 93.
Flamethrower.
It's just not 93 anymore.
So I need to be perfectly honest with everybody. Brad Penny was originally my number 3, but then I read about the lack of rotation in Doug Fister's ball, and I was like, Doug Fister's a much funnier name. So I'm going to go with Doug Fister here.
And Brad Penny threw a little bit too hard to be one of the things that a heavy ball pitcher is important, right, is low 90s, is it not, Mike? It's low 90s.
Yeah, it's slop. You know when you say it's ground
You
ball
can go
out.
mid-90s, Dan. You can actually. Josh Johnson lived in the mid-90s.
Shot put.
Mid to actually upper 90s.
Shot put.
95, well,
It's like
95,
yeah, that's right.
96.
You take a swing of the bat, and it's like you've made contact with a shot put. You
Yeah.
can't hit a home run with
No.
that. It's going to be a dribbler to third.
Right. You're getting jammed. You're breaking bats. You're grounding in double plays. I miss this about
Where is
the
it?
sport.
Where'd it go?
Where did it go? Number 2 is Roy Halladay. Rest in peace. Wow. At palm ball. Are you shitting me?
Doc.
You can't. I mean, you could take a porn hack, and it's not. It's a nubbler to the mound.
Yes, a nubbler and the shot put is in shards.
Yes.
Like it's a nubbler
The
to the
bat
mound.
is going further than
Yes,
the ball.
That's right.
The barrel of the bat is
That's
going
right.
further than the ball if Roy Halladay throws you a
The
palm ball.
infielders are laughing at you
Yes.
because they're picking up splinters of your bat.
Yeah, the shift in the infield is right around the mound. Everyone's just standing around the mound, protecting Roy Halladay from the shards that will come from your bat because of his heavy ass palm ball. And number 1, Brandon Webb.
I mean, it's a good list. It's a good
Heaviest
list.
That's a
goddamn
good
ball
list.
you've ever seen. I mean, dude was just Pete Weber up there. He was throwing a bowling ball at you.
Where did you come up with Brandon Webb in your head?
The list started with Brandon Webb because when I was watching baseball yesterday with one eye up on several screens of afternoon, dude, I've been watching baseball all season. I'm really
Mike's
trying.
trying.
To get
He's
got a
shot.
fantasy team.
Got a fantasy team?
Fantasy.
Mike is
Yes.
trying. Look, Mike
I
is
bet Kiki Hernandez to get a hit. He finally did.
all of the energy that Mike was pouring into the Browns needs to go somewhere, Roy, and he's just turning it into being a different kind of sports fan in adulthood.
Right. I'm
Wait,
giving-
you just buried the lead. Did you just say you bet on Kike Hernandez to get a hit?
Yeah.
Does that mean that the reason? Wait, how big a percentage
Plus
of you now
180.
watching
What?
baseball is because you're betting?
Well, the line that I got wasn't very friendly.
All of it, David.
Yeah.
Is it all of it? Okay.
All of it.
So that's a very interesting statement. So it's not that you're trying baseball again.
No,
you're just
I am.
looking for something to
No,
bet.
I am because
No, but-
I want to support my teammates, Chris and Billy. They really
You
love
wanna
the sport of
support your
baseball.
sponsor.
No, but David,
No, it's not that. It's just, I want to be involved in these conversations. They're talking about people. They said Wendell the other day. I was like, who the hell is this Wendell guy?
Turk Wendell.
No, not that Turk Wendell.
Oh,
I
wow.
wish it was that
No,
Wendell.
that's not Wendell Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I
No,
just
but this
wanted.
is an important question. I'm asking, what percentage of you watching baseball is because you now have a
No,
financial
and Mike,
stake?
before you answer that, I just want to explain to Samson, perhaps he doesn't understand this part of it, that gambling is fuel to make you more informed.
Do you think DraftKings is making me gamble on sports? And also, follow-up question, do you think I actually watch all the sports I bet on? I've been betting baseball for 10 years. The entire time I haven't liked it because a winner's a winner, goddammit.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Samson thinks, what do you think is happening here, Samson? You don't think part of what ends up feeding your interest in sports is if you're gambling on stuff, you're learning things, whether you're watching the games or not, but you are taking an interest in some of the games you might not otherwise take. So that you know all of a sudden who Herb Jones is because you're watching basketball in a way that, gets games from other markets.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree. I think that when people are betting, they're betting because they think that they have an opportunity to make money and to augment their income and to enable to pay their taxes. And they're not learning rosters. They're not actually making informed opinions or finding value. They're going online and they're reading what experts, so-called experts, have to say. They're listening to picks of the day. They're looking at where they can make the most and how they can make the most. But the majority, what we thought is that we wanted to get in bed with gambling sites is because we actually thought that people would watch games because they gambled on them. It did not occur to me, like Mike, where you'd be betting on stuff where you wouldn't even know the result until after it happened or it wasn't on TV.
You are not familiar with gamblers.
Yep.
Yoo-hoo! Man, I bet sports that I didn't know what they were because I got a hot tip.
See,
Like I had no
that's-
idea what snooker was, but I won.
I mean, I bet the ponies. Never been to a track.
Do you bet horse races that you don't watch?
If
Occasionally.
Felica tells me to.
Yeah, if someone's got a
Yeah.
hot tip on 7.
Yeah.
How much gambling is there on Highlight, Chris Cody of Sheets and Giggles? Because Highlight's resurgence is right here. Can I get action on Wednesday at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday? Because I got a bet on Manny throwing a ball against a plexiglass down in Miami.
I put way too much money in Manu in match 2. I haven't seen him ever play before the first time, but he won. Little comeback ski.
Chris, do you have to be on site to gamble, or can you do it online?
It's no, you have to be. You have to be in a state where it's legal, and you can do it in person, or it has to be legal in your state.
So, but in Miami, as an example,
In Florida,
do
you cannot.
Go?
Yeah, you have to be
Not
at the
yet,
place in
but
Florida.
we're working toward it. We're all working toward it.
And have you found that has increased attendance?
I don't follow the numbers. I'm just the owner.
Yeah.
He fudges the numbers just like you did, Samson. When
And
you
he
were
bet on his own players, by the way.
Packed house every
He
night.
fudges the attendance numbers. Stugotz came in here today, Mike, and all he said was bleep Kershaw.
This whole thing where actually, you know what? I'm going to defend Kershaw here because I heard David say these things are prearranged before he goes out. You know what, David? Sometimes I go out and I say to myself, I'm just going to have 2 drinks. And sometimes 2 drinks is not enough. And I end up having like 5 drinks, 6 drinks, 7 drinks, whatever it takes to get me hammered, okay? And so you go into a game with a game plan. If you're Dave Roberts, your guy's at 80 pitches. We haven't had a perfect game in forever. I think there's 25 in the history of Major League Baseball. You go in on an 80-pitch count, and you know what? Your guy is 7 innings in. He's got a perfect game. He's throwing well. You give him the opportunity to do it. You give the fans the opportunity to see it. It's a terrible job by Roberts.
There's a bunch of AA sponsors who, in theory, would be with you at the bar after 2 saying, hey, this is not the day that you're going to 7. We are getting you out of this bar right now because you seem inclined to want to get to 7. It's not Clayton Kershaw alone. It's not Dave Roberts alone. There's all sorts of sponsors around who are indicating exactly how to deal with a change in behavior or a change in desire. That's why you make the decision in advance so you don't let the emotionality of the moment take over.
But pitch counts are a thing in April, right, David? Like, is this odd in your experience running teams? Did pitchers, you don't throw guys over 100 pitches in April? Like, that's a real thing?
Listen, you're entering an area that I think about every day, and we talked about during COVID. I personally still believe Jose Fernandez is dead because of pitch counts, and that he went over his pitch count, and we let him go over his pitch count. We called into the dugout to let him stay in his final game against Philly, and Scott Boras was so angry that he made us hold him back a day because he was worried he would get hurt. So pitch counts are very real, not just in April, because there are statistics that show the correlation between pitch count and injury. But Jose was a young pitcher at that time. So what I said on Nothing Personal is if it's a young pitcher, I'm taking him out after 80 games of a perfect game, his first start of the season. Clayton Kershaw is not a young pitcher. There was no reason not to keep him in, not to plan for him in a situation where history can be made to let him stretch a little bit. It's not like he was going into Johan Santana range. He wasn't in the 140s. He was at 80 for crying out loud.
But David, I do think one of the things that this sport now must come to grips with is the idea that Wall Street has gotten there with the numbers to make so many kinds of different changes that in essence render the perfect game meaningless. It was crunched by numbers with the idea of, no, I need to keep this pitcher healthy. There's value in this arm. There's only so many pitches. Well, there's a science to this now, and the perfect game is going to be something that is lost by baseball over time because this is how we do things now. As the fans say, oh, come on, man, every once in a while defy the numbers. It can't all be Wall Street.
Yeah, that is obviously how we think now that we're not in front offices. But when you're sitting there and you're responsible for the health of a player and for winning and for the health of your team, you don't let emotion be a part of it. You guys are all talking emotionally, as I did today on Nothing Personal, because I agree it hurts the game. But people in the front office don't ever think about that. I told you, we don't think about the fans. We don't think about anything other than doing exactly what we're supposed to do according to what the research we've done and the scenarios that we've played out. We don't ever vary from it. Just look at Kevin Cash with Blake Snell in the World Series. Remember that? You do not vary from your pregame plan.
David, now for Clayton Kershaw. You have to tear that ball out of my hands. I mean, I'm serious. You're Clayton Kershaw. He's Dave Roberts. You want to stay in and pitch a perfect game or attempt to pitch a perfect game? Rip the ball out of my hands. Don't do it with a smile. Don't hug people in the dugout. Don't do anything. Don't give me the team line, okay, the company line after the game. Hey, you know, bigger things here, bigger fish to fry trying to win a World Series. You would have to pry the ball out of Kenny Rogers' hands. You would have to pry the ball out of David
Gambler.
Wells' hands. You would have to you would have to kill Nolan Ryan to prevent
Express.
Nolan Ryan from throwing 9 innings. Get out of here.
Yeah, when you don't show up your manager like that, but I understand
do.
the days of that happening have sort of passed in terms of, you look what Trevor Bauer did when he showed up Terry Francona. That was sort of the beginning of the end for him when he threw the ball, when he didn't want to come out of the game, and he threw the ball into center field. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, that was
But
great.
that was something. But when players show up their managers, Clayton Kershaw would never show up Dave Roberts, ever.
The amount of people in this shipping container right now that are like, just blow his arm out. It'll be good for his career long term. Like, you can't just, like, it's so
Hang
like
tough.
It's like, Mike, if you had to go jog today for the first time in
not the
6
same.
months,
False
your
equivalency.
stamina would not be as good if
False
you.
equivalency.
What do you mean false equivalency?
If you gave me spring training to get myself into my first jog, then I'm good.
I just.
So spring training was truncated this year, which
Not
is
an
why Kershaw was
bullshit
able to blame
excuse.
it on the
I
lockout.
don't care. You're
no,
one of
I
the greatest
agree.
pitchers of your era. You go out there, you get that perfect game.
Skip, you want the ball? Come get it.
Stugotz just shouted Kenny Rogers as if Kenny Rogers,
That's
who
what
like
it does anyway.
he didn't even have that many shutouts. Like he was
Yeah, the
famous.
perfect game.
Did a perfect game, right?
Kershaw has the cachet to stand up to Dave Roberts. Why don't we believe what he's saying right now?
It's not Dave Roberts. He's merely the face of it. As Dan says, he's middle management. This is an organizational decision that goes all the way through. They made a decision before the season.
Enough.
This is how many pitches he throws.
How about the fans?
You know what?
Skip a start. Skip a start.
No, I agree with you,
Your poopy mouth
Stugotz.
is sucking the fun out of all of this.
I agree with you. I agree with you,
guys all.
Stugotz. Like they have to make fan-facing decisions now. But very clearly, everyone's gone into this organization and thought through every part of baseball, and that's why the shift exists. And to be honest, they're right for doing it.
No.
Because it helps teams win.
No. Because
actually
if
doesn't
everybody
help anymore,
no, it doesn't help
Chris,
anymore if everyone's
because
doing
everyone's doing it.
Yeah, so everyone just go back to not playing the shift, and we're all going to have a grand old time. Look, I'm honestly trying, so I'm not trotting out the same tired excuse when people ask me about baseball. I'm watching it. I'm forcing myself to watch it. It's got a major problem. It's a shell of itself. It is not fun to watch. It's fun to drink beer bats and eat Cracker Jacks and have a good time with the boys or ladies.
That's
but
like
that's
sitting
it.
here and say that's like
Billy and Chris, I have a question about today's home opener. And you've got a young pitcher who's so good, the ace of the staff, and signed to a long-term deal. If he's at 110 pitches in the 7th inning and he's got a no-hitter, are you keeping him in the game?
I'm gonna, as a fan, I'll want him in the game, but I will understand the coach on his second start of the season taking him out. I don't understand.
The point is you'll
You've
be
been
okay.
brainwashed.
And you're a big fan. It's the home opener. It's sold out stadium, but you're going to understand that decision because he's young. What if it were a veteran? What if it were Clayton Kershaw pitching for your team in your home opener?
Yeah, I mean, I think a veteran has more of a case. That's why I don't believe when you guys say that he's doing the team's line here. Like, I think if Kershaw was genuinely pissed, he has the cachet to be like, I'm pissed about this.
No, but they did. All I
problem
said
with
is they
Kershaw.
talked about it beforehand.
Wait, but Mike, you say the game has changed. Just like in football, the game has changed to make it safer for quarterbacks and players.
Football doesn't have a problem where it's unwatchable.
Yeah, baseball doesn't run arms into the ground as much as they used to because they've evolved and they've realized this hurts arms, so they worry about pitch counts more.
Is that true?
That's like
It's actually more. So actually,
I don't think
there's
what you're
more
saying.
Tommy Johns
Yeah,
now.
there's more
Yeah.
injuries.
There's
It's-
more
it's-
injuries. There's
you're-
more
We're
time.
just towing a
injured
company
list.
line,
But
man.
why-
Baseball's got you by the baseball.
why are they so worried about pitch counts these days then? Why are
Because they're trying to
agents.
find a way to stop the injuries because
Right,
from
that's-
an ownership standpoint, injuries are the worst.
right?
'cause
I'm
they're
not
paying a
saying it's
player not to
working.
play.
I'm saying that's what they're going for.
Oh, correct.
But I'm just-
That's
like-
exactly
But they're
right.
failing.
I'm just saying it's like as
Yes.
if you were Mike, if you were ranting against there's no more big collisions in football anymore. It's like, yeah, because we're trying to get less concussions.
But with football, there's quantifiable proof that it's avoiding injury. With baseball, you
Is
just
there-
told
are-
me
are-
something that's inaccurate.
Are there fewer concussions now?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Oh my God! Look up the study. Yes, there are. Head trauma is lower because
Look
of the
it up.
moves
He
that
gave
they've
you a
made.
look it up. I'm so
Yes,
proud of you,
there,
Mike.
there have been studies
boy.
on this.
I mean,
There's
who wants to
fewer
look
head-
up that study?
your own
I mean,
research.
You watch the games.
I think
there's
it's because
fewer
there's
head-on
fewer
collisions.
I think that's because there's fewer Lester Hayes and there's fewer receivers going across the middle these days.
Yeah, it's certainly a safer game to play, especially for quarterbacks as well. And this is beyond head injuries. Quarterbacks barely get touched anymore. Baker Mayfield said this in this interview. He's like, I barely get touched back there. So
Because you don't want your stars to get hurt.
which is what I guess the argument is with baseball, even though they can't actually cultivate these stars.
Money coming from the hurt quarterback.
I just
though.
don't know how the argument is more pitches will, like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense.
Well, less pitches doesn't work. More pitches. My argument for more pitches is get the Tommy John out of the way. They're going to have it regardless. Build up the stamina to go back to the days of Nolan Ryan throwing 300 goddamn pitches. That's baseball, baby.
He's got a bit of an argument
That's
ender
baseball, baby.
on you, though, Mike. He really does. When he just threw out, I know David has really suffered the death of Jose Fernandez. When he throws out, I believe the pitch count stuff is what killed him. He's throwing a trump card at you in the argument that is he's sitting here saying, no, organizations are going to believe in the value of trying to protect their arms. And this was a decision, Samson, that you're saying was made emotionally, right? To use Jose Fernandez's arm, some of the that Boris didn't want you to use against his future $200 million contract.
Well, what we did back then is we were willing to use our eyes as much as the analytics. And we look at innings and batters, so we're keeping track of what you would call stressful innings when there's runners on base or there's traffic or there's deep counts on a consistent basis, so stress on the arm. And we felt as though that he was doing well enough that game against Philly that leaving him out there was not going to hurt his recovery. He was coming off Tommy John, actually. And so we made that decision during the game that we were going to move forward. And what's changed since then is the in-game decisions have really, for the most part, gone away.
NFL concussions are down year over year. There's a new study every day. Chris Nowinski, who's been one of the most influential voices when it comes to head trauma, is saying we're seeing tremendous progress when it comes to the NFL and their approach. You actually have data to back it up. I don't see it with pitchers in Major League Baseball.
I mean,
I think they're
with you,
going to get
like,
hurt regardless.
I guess you guys win if you're saying that there's more today. I don't know why there is. It just, I get the theory of let's protect these arms more.
I would be all on board, but we've had a decade of this
Yeah.
approach and it hasn't worked. So that's like one of the least of my problems, honestly.
Yeah.
The Kershaw thing doesn't happen all that often. It does, but not with a veteran. And there's so many reasons why Robert shouldn't have taken Kershaw out specifically. My problem with baseball is that everyone's going 0 for 4. It's strikeout or deep fly, and that's not entertaining.
Get rid of the shift, though, and at least a Joey Gallo gets up to the plate and he says, because right now, Joey Gallo, let's take him for example. He goes up to the plate, he looks at the right side of the infield, there's 17 guys over there.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm never going to hit through that.
Right.
So I need to just
Hit it to the left, though.
Whereas,
Yeah.
like that, Tim Kirk should honestly flip me on this, because I was like, don't mess with the shifts. If you put 2 guys on each side of the infield, now at least Joey Gallo gets up there and he goes, okay, now I can at least attempt to hit a hard ground ball.
I can hit for contact.
So I think that if they got rid of the shifts, I think that would at least improve all this terrible 0 for 4s and all these strikeouts.
There's no advantage to it if everybody's doing it. It's gone out the window.
I once asked an intern in the baseball operations department to do a study because I put forward a suggestion that we do Tommy John to our minor league players, even those who were not injured.
Oh my God!
Brilliant
Oh my
idea.
God!
And
Yes,
the
get it
reason
out of the
I
way.
wanted that done
No,
is
this is
I wanted
Inspired.
them to
No, this is
No.
Frankenstein
No,
stuff.
I love it.
No,
I love it.
I can't
Let's
believe.
let the man speak. It's
Yes.
a brilliant idea.
I want to hear more.
So the reason why I wanted it done is I wanted the recovery for Tommy John to be done on the minor league salary without getting major league service time.
Okay, so he had to be David with it, but
no, no,
I was
Christ,
right
man.
there. I was right there with him.
Come on.
Now, just a minute. You can just hear me out and why I was told no, even though I really thought it was an interesting idea because
You
we
were
had
so
some
evil.
players who would be
It's
coming
evil.
up.
You're advocating for evil. Let's just stitch them together, even though they're perfectly healthy, just to get this injury stuff and surgery stuff out of the way.
At bargain minor league prices.
I mean,
That's
Now,
a
by the
play.
way,
It's a
players would
horror
end up
movie.
getting hooked. You want to know why it was said no to?
For you.
2 ways.
They would still get
on
hurt.
a finance and on a baseball side. On the finance side, pitchers who are injured, and by the way, let's go back to Jose when he had Tommy John. His salaries were actually lower than they would have been because he did not have the bulk in arbitration because of the time he missed. So when you've got a player who's got not yet in arbitration, not yet in free agency, their salary is changed by the fact that they spend time in the major league disabled list, now called the injured list. So from a financial standpoint, for your best pitchers, if they get Tommy John, while it sucks that you've lost him for a year, it actually changes the amount of money they make before free agency. So that's financial. On the baseball side, There is a study that was done on the percentage of players who return from Tommy John who are actually better than they were before Tommy John. And there is a percentage, but it's not an overwhelmingly high percentage, and it did not outweigh the risk of those who don't ever rebound from Tommy John.
You are a monster. You are a monster.
And so those canceled each other out, and therefore you were stuck in the middle.
I can't believe what you're admitting right now, which is that the Marlins were considering for value.
No, I was.
Evil genius.
There is not one person I worked with
You went rogue,
who was willing to agree because they thought it was so outrageous.
It's awful.
But I did have an
awful.
opportunity to explain it, and I was able to convert several people, but they were not high enough in the organization to matter, so it never happened.
This has been
by the way, the amount of Marlins, go back to your Marlins pitchers who we lost to Tommy John. Josh Johnson's whole career got derailed by multiple Tommy Johns.
David, this has been a long one. We haven't gotten your review, and let's consolidate our top 5s movies that changed behavior in the world. That way it's a top 5 combined. I'll give you the first draft pick. You'll get number 5, okay?
For next week or for right now?
No, for right now. I got my top 5 list ready to go.
I haven't done it, but I have it in my head.
All right, so you go. Number 5.
Number 5 is what we talked about, Sideways. People who drink wine don't drink Merlot because of it.
All right. I'm going to go number 4, Super Size Me.
Ooh. Good one.
Not a good one. People
Why?
didn't stop going to McDonald's because of that.
No, but it changed the McDonald's menu, and it changed McDonald's approach.
I get small now always. Yeah.
The salad's more fattening than the burger.
No, it changed the approach. Come on, it changed the world. Number 3.
Okay.
Number 3.
Jaws. Can't swim in the ocean.
Yep.
You can't swim in the ocean anymore.
What?
All right.
But people are still swimming in the ocean, David.
No,
I mean,
No, he's
one
right
is-
about this.
no,
He's right.
No,
Yeah,
no
he's
one's
right
swimming
What
in
do
the
you
ocean.
mean?
I just went for a dip in the
A lot
ocean.
less
I mean,
I
people.
just told you I went paddleboarding the other day.
Yeah,
That's
but
funny.
when you're going paddle boarding, what do you hear in the back of your mind every time you fall into the water?
Da-na-na-na.
Yeah.
Na-na-na-na.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
No, not at all.
Dan, how fast do you get back into that paddleboard when you fall in the water?
Unreasonably so.
Exactly. I got number 2 then. It's tough. I think a good one's going to get omitted, but I'm going to go with Blackfish. And your number 1 film that changed behavior across the world.
The Blair Witch Project.
Awful number 1. Awful number 1. I think there were plenty of people before the Blair Witch Project that knew going into the camping into the woods in the middle of nowhere was a bad idea.
And they're still doing it. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Oh, I think it made it so that the first thing you remember more than food is flashlights.
I would have
and
gone
cell
Psycho.
phones.
I would have gone Psycho over Blair Witch.
I'm not scared of showering.
Ooh, you didn't. The first time you showered after you saw Psycho, you didn't creak open the shower curtain. I
Well, wait a
still
minute.
do.
Hold
I
on,
don't have a
better.
shower curtain in my
I don't
bathroom
use
because
shower
of Psycho.
curtains because of it. So the first thing, like the first dollar you make, goes to a glass shower door.
Even then, I still creak it open. It's just, oh man, there's chocolate syrup everywhere. Good list. All right, David, let's get your review very quickly. Host of Nothing Personal. Follow him on Twitter at David P. Samson.
I just finished watching Life and Beth, and I wanted to talk about the series. I watched all 10 episodes yesterday, and it is the new Amy Schumer series that she created and that she is producing. And it is really quite autobiographical about her childhood and the relationship with her mom, with her dad, with her sister. It's her relationship. And Michael Cera from Juno and Scott and Pilgrim Face the World, he plays her boyfriend who is modeled after her real-life husband. And the first 3 episodes, it's one of those shows that if you're not needing to review something, you would give up after 3 episodes. But because you want to have it to review, you go through all 10, and there's a payoff. So is there an example, and this would be another top 5 for next week, where you've got to survive the beginning because there's something good at the end, and that's what Life and Beth is. Amy Schumer is trying to be different. It's not a comedy. There are funny moments, but it is about family. It is about loss. It's about love. It's about torture, and I don't mean like S&M torture, emotional torture. The last 7, way better than the first 3, worth watching.
Schumer did something on HBO Max taking you through her pregnancy that was really intimate and vulnerable as well. She's showing a great deal of range in how much life she's willing to show you. David, good talking to you. We'll talk to you again next week. Again, a reminder, nobody in sports business, you can get a lot of stuff over there, but nobody in sports business in the media lane is doing what David Samson is doing, which is showing you the inner guts of, Clayton Kershaw's pitch count. We're machines that are doing the economy of sports. So if you really want to understand the business better without any distilling, nothing personal is the podcast you need to be listening to. Thank you, David.
All right, see ya.